Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane, hold tight everybody that's locked in, and in today's episode I'm going to give you another update on what's happening with the studio, the toy factory that I'm building in my back garden. As you'll know if you've been following this project and you've been following these updates, myself and my dad and my friends have been building a toy factory right here on the premises where I live, and moving forward it's going to be also the place where I film all of my Slimehouse episodes, so it's exciting times here and we've made a fair bit of progress since I last caught up with you. We're also going to do some toy prototyping in today's episode. I've made a new toy that I want to show you, all based off an old film that I really like, so that's going to be exciting. So if that sounds like a bit of you, then make sure you're comfy, sit back and get strapped in for a very special episode of Slimehouse TV. Let's do this. Do you ever feel like you're being constantly watched? So now all the electrics are inside the building. Everything's done. We've got an alarm fitted. Just been to the tip as well to get rid of a load of garbage because we had so much stuff. I hate going to the tip because I always see things there that I want to rescue. I saw a bunch of like VHS tapes that I wanted to have a look at, but they were like buried in rubbish. Okay, so as you can see, it's again covered in garbage. Yesterday was the last day of doing the electrics, and we also got the vents fitted. So now I've got a vent here. And I've also got my favourite vent. Check this one. This sucks the air out. Check that. Little pulley fan. So all the ventilation's done. I'm going to put a different grill on that because I don't like how open it is. It's a bit too open. I want like a bit more of a meshy one so that like wasps and things can't get in and bugs get stuck inside the building and stuff. Also had this cool access panel fitted. Ignore that, that's getting filled in. That's just if we need to have a wire going up into it, because I want to have lights all the way around it, courtesy of Kev. So yeah, just keeps all the wires nice and tidy. I've had the dehumidifier going on inside here while the plaster's drying. And check that, we're still pulling out so much water. That was left in overnight. Which means that the plasterboard still isn't dry. Does he wash up? He never washed up. Does he clean up? All he ever does is clean up. Clean up other people's mess. So I'll give it a quick mop, but I'm going to try this. This is a steam cleaner that I borrowed off my mum, and I'm hoping that this makes all the difference in getting this vinyl back to looking fresh and new again after all this building work's been done. I've not used one of these before. Look at all these attachments it comes with. Loads of stuff. Hopefully a head for everything. Like Wurzel Gummidge. That's the beauty of having tons of plug sockets. So I've given all of the floor a steam clean. Hopefully that's gone up a lot of the crap because it's took a while to get this looking nice after all the working that's been done on it and constantly walking in all this mud. We've still not sorted outside yet. I'm going to show you what we're doing with outside later on. In terms of skirting board, we're going to put that on after, but it's not going to be a normal skirting board. Basically the skirting board is going to be something called rubber upstand. That's like a piece of rubber that touches the floor and then slides up the wall a little bit. But it's just easier for mopping up than having like white nice skirting trim because that's just not the vibe in here. So in terms of what's going to be happening outside, at the minute it's just like a muddy ground. It's horrible, and every time you walk into the building you're trailing mud in, which is why I put this down, this piece of roof felt, just for something to walk on so you could wipe your feet a little bit before you walk in. But obviously at the minute this is all just soil because this was just grass before, so this needs to be dug down. There's going to maybe be a step when you step out of the house, and then that'll be all flagstoned nice. And then we'll jet wash the whole thing because at the minute this is flagstone but it's all dirty. So I'm going to move all these bricks back up towards the house just so there's like the least amount of mess around here as possible. Try not to kill worms, there's all worms in the mud. Don't want to do it too aggressive and hurt the little earthworms. The little earthworm Jim. In terms of what's happening on the outside of the building, we've got to give it another couple of layers of paint. This is also going to be painted grey, but it's going to have this on hopefully. So this is like some plastic composite cladding, which is nice. So just along the front, just to give it a nice finish. And yeah, we've got our light up now, so anytime anybody walks on the garden, I come out of the back door or anything like that, that comes on straight away nice and bright, which is awesome because not only is it easier to see when you're getting in and out, it's also nice for security as well. At the minute, there's a trench all the way around the outside of the building. This was not only to put the cable in for the electric, but that'll also help with like water and that kind of thing. So that's all going to be filled with gravel, and also these things, whatever you call them, they're also going to be going in there as well. Now it's been about 2 weeks since the plastering was done, but we're told it could take between like a month and 6 weeks to dry, depending on how humid the weather is and that kind of thing. So it might be a long time before we actually get to doing the painting. Obviously we can't do the skirting or the light strips around there until it's painted, so there's going to be a lot of time waiting now for that plaster to dry. In the meantime, we'll probably be getting on with this exterior stuff like what I was just telling you about. That's all stuff that we're probably going to be doing in the interim between waiting for that plaster to dry, but we'll see how we get on in this episode. Come on, you get off that phone, we've got painting to do, lad. So it's been pretty bad weather for the past few weeks. I mean, it always is this time of year. It is December and we are in the north of England. But a couple of weeks ago, we did manage to get a few days where it was nice. So myself and Judd jumped on that. We utilised it and got a few more coats of paint done on the exterior while it wasn't raining or sleeting or snowing. The blocks that this building is made from are quite porous as well, so my dad keeps hammering home about how important it is that we put multiple coats of paint on it. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th layer of paint that it's had on it now, but at least this is the last colour that we'll have to paint. At least this is now the colour that it'll be when it's all finished. So that's both them sides done now. This is at about 2 or 3 coats now, this side of the wall. Still got to cut in up here with a finer brush because I don't want to mess up the guttering. And while that's drying, we can make a start on painting the front. Even though we're going to clad it like I mentioned before, we're still going to give it a coat or two of grey, just so that the brick is protected underneath the clad. You've got to go down this little crack and it's proper tight, and then paint porous brick, and you're smashing paint on and there's still little holes in it like that. Proper winds me up, doesn't it, Judd? I get right mardy, don't I?
Just a little.
Okay, so we've pretty much painted the whole thing now. Looking nice. Shouts to a man like Judd, helping every time. Judd of the wood! So it's a very cold early December morning, and as you can see, this room now is full of junk. The reason for that is because last week I did a video shoot and photo shoot with my friend Squircle Kid for his new clothing line. He's a fellow toy maker. He makes Sofube and event themed pieces. Really cool guy. But we did a lot of filming in my house, and I didn't want my house to be full of like boxes of stuff that's all been stored up and stacked up temporarily until we've got the storage area fixed. So my plan today is to get all this stuff cleaned up, get it all sorted out. I need to clean this table and clear it because I've got to put all the prints on it that are going to be signed and getting sent off today and tomorrow. Shouts to everybody that bought a Turgore print, by the way. Really appreciate the support. Obviously, it's been a really couple hectic weeks with me with doing the Turgore toy release and things, and it's now nice that they're all out, they're all in the post, going to their new forever homes. I've also got my heater burning. That's how we're doing heat right now. There's no radiators or nothing in yet. I've just got a gas heater, which is really nice and toasty. So I only have to have that on for 10 minutes and I can turn it off and this room stays like an oven. So yeah, less talking, more cracking on, more work to be done. Lots of cool stuff in here. I've got lots of these reaction figures still. I used to get these sent to me by Neva Studios back in the day when they were starting out and they were selling just toys and reaction figures. I used to get a lot of the exclusives sent me and things. So still kept a lot of them, a lot of my favourites. Some I'll just choose to trade in future toy trades and stuff, but the Toxic Crusaders and the My Pet Monsters, they will always get kept because, yeah, they're fire. Now, if you're anything like me, when you're going through boxes of your collection, whether it's just to sort them out and put them safe or to get them ready for sale, I always get distracted and start playing with everything. I'll start pulling things out that I forget that I've got. I'll get something that I'm supposed to be selling and then get re-enchanted with it again and not want to sell it. I'm just the kind of person that can get quite easily distracted, especially when I'm in a room full of toys, even if they're my own toys and the stuff that I've seen 100 times over. Tell me I'm not the only one. It's kind of crazy how messy a space can get if you've just like neglected it for a week or something because you've been doing other things. Like I said, last week we did the Turgore release and I filmed all the commercial for that on here. I filmed a little bit of behind the scenes stuff as well. I couldn't show you this in the last episode because obviously this has not been announced yet, but I can show it you now because by this time, this figure will have already been released and hopefully have sold out if I'm lucky. But I wanted to show you a little bit more about how handy this table is that I got sent by FlexiSpot. You can see he's there, Turgore. Yeah, I just wanted to show you how handy this is because when I've got my camera set up like that, I can just press this going down and up like that, and it makes taking photos and videos so much easier than having to constantly adjust my tripod and the gimbal. So ideally I would kind of like to have a board like this set up all the time in this room, something that's like a modular kind of diorama, something that's got the ability to be changed into different things but is always in one stationary space. So maybe I want to do something like this that's a bit more like a decrepit wasteland, or maybe I want to do like a street diorama like the one that I built for the Resident Evil video, which is like one of my favorite things that I've ever built. And I want to be able to have a space where I can like have that stuff permanently set up in here. It's kind of like up in the air whether I will be able to do it at this point, but I at least want to do a lot more of that stuff in this room. So even if it's not something that's set up all the time, I want to be able to have a space where I can quickly set things up when I want to do it. See that? Cold in here, man. It's just because it's December, it's early December, it's been snowing, it's been frosty. It's just that time of year where everything is just really cold. It's like it in my house at the minute if I don't have the heating on full blast. So I had the gas heater on for an hour or so and then I turned it off about an hour ago. And yeah, the temperature just started to drop. So I definitely need to fix the heating in this room and make sure that it's a nice consistent temperature all the time, because obviously I'm gonna have resins and chemicals and paints and everything in here. Cardboard, paper, stuff that I don't want to be getting wilted and ruined. So yeah, that's definitely something that we've got to keep in mind. But wanted to let you know that I have signed all the prints. So they are all done now. I wanted to let people know as well that some people messaged asking me to sign them to specific people or in specific areas. I've not been able to do anything like that because as you can see, I've just sat and done them all in one lot. And it would just confuse me and I would get it wrong if I'm trying to sign them in certain areas and then making sure that gets sent to a specific person and that kind of thing. Don't confuse me any more than I need to be, because this stuff like fries my brain enough when I'm having to like sign all this stuff and then get it sent out to specific people and things. But hopefully you'll be happy with them. I've signed them all in the bottom left down there and numbered them as well. They look really nice, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them in people's collections, in people's houses. So make sure that you tag me when it does arrive and you've got it displayed on your wall and framed or whatever you're going to do with it. Tag me on your social media so that I can see it, because yeah, really looking forward to seeing these in their new homes. Also, while I was doing it, I was watching a bit of MS Paints on my phone. Really liking his channel at the minute. Really good to see a fellow Northerner filming stuff really filmic and doing like really nice work and making awesome videos. So I'll put a link to his channel down in the comments below. He's got way more subs than me, but any that I can send his way, I'm happy to do so, because yeah, really liking what he's doing at the minute. There's lots of feelings that you might experience when watching a crafting video. You might feel educated, you might feel inspired. I certainly didn't expect to be crying. You know, I said I was watching MS Paints. Well, this morning I was watching a video that actually had me in tears. Big ups to little Loki, man. What a sad story. Rest in peace, little dude. Genuinely had me in tears. Such a beautiful channel. Make sure you go check it out. I know I mentioned it before, but yeah, highly recommend that dude's work. He's a fellow filmmaker as well, so there's a lot about what he does that I really relate to. Anyway, I'm currently posting at the post office. I've got some more prints to take, so taking them now, and then it's back to the studio, back to Slimehouse, and back to the project. So by this point it had been about 6, maybe 7 weeks since we'd got the plastering all done, which means it was now all dry and it was time to get everything masked off, get the whole room cleared out and get everything ready for painting. And as you can imagine, at this point I'd been sat watching plaster dry for weeks. I'm very eager to get in this building and start doing cool stuff in there, so I was counting the days to get to this moment. As I said, it's been terrible weather recently. It's been a very humid December, so it took a little longer to dry than normal, but this felt like a really good step in the right direction. Like after all this time, we were now making that last bit of progress on the final part of this build. I also had so much cardboard to get rid of. I've had so much delivered to my house while building this studio, tons of boxes and other random packaging, so it were good to get rid of all that. And while burning through it all, it were really nice just to take a moment to myself and think about how far we've come with this project, and also what we've got to plan next to get over the last hurdle of creating it. That's alright, £5.
250 just for what do you call it?
250 what for
You
roll?
just need tray, or do you need roller and all?
Dark grey or black silicon for going round door. All purpose silicon, that's alright, grey. So after getting everything ready, it was a quick trip to Wickes to pick up some paint roller trays and a few other last minute essentials, making sure that I had everything that we needed because the following morning we was finally going to start cracking on with painting them walls. So just getting all the sheets weighted down, everything covered up, and we can start with some painting. We can get to the painting! Don't be getting that on my new camera. So before we can start painting it with the actual colours that it's going to be, we have to cover everything with a really watered down mix of white emulsion. Now this is a pretty boring stage, it's very messy and splatty, and at this point you just want to start painting it the final colours, but most decorators swear by this, so there's no point cutting corners when we're this close to finishing. Almost done with the first coat of this white. We only have to do one coat of this, it's just so the wall's got something to take to. It doesn't look very good, it looks a bit shoddy, looks a bit patchy and things. So we're going to use all the paint up that we've got to do this, but this is just about giving the wall something to take to. A bit like when you sand plastic before you paint it. So yeah, it won't really look like anything nice, but it'll definitely set us on the right track to put in the colour that we actually want to on the wall. So there we have it, all finished, the first coat of white. Looking forward to getting some colour on now. So that's all I've got for you today in terms of studio updates. I would have liked to have done a little bit more, but obviously I can only work as fast as plaster will dry. We have done a little bit more in there since then and done a bit more filming, but that's all stuff that as of tomorrow morning ties into something that we're doing that I want to save for the next video. So yeah, hopefully that all works out. As of now, it's tomorrow morning and it's something I'm really excited about. So if all that goes to plan, then yeah, the next video update on here is going to be really something special. Now, as you can imagine, building a studio like this isn't cheap. We've had lots of people help on it. There's been lots of things donated and things, but it's still not cheap to make this, and there's still a long way to go before it's complete. So if you want to help support Slimehouse, you want to help support projects like this and help directly fund the studio and all the things that we need to put in there once it's actually built, then the best place to do that is over on Patreon. You can join Patreon over at patreon.com/SlimehouseTV, become a Slime Alliance member or a Slime Renegade. There's a few tiers on there, a few options, and there's a few different benefits and perks that you get, but the most important thing is that it all goes into helping Slimehouse become bigger and better than ever. I usually do this call to action at the end of the video, but I'm doing it mid-video this time because it's really important that we get as much support as possible at the minute. I put so much into Slimehouse, I put videos out every single week, and if you enjoy them and you feel like you want to help that, and if you're in a position where you're able to give me a little helping hand, then there's no better time to do it than now. Okay, so now for some toy making. If you watch the studio update part 2, I think it was, you'll remember that I show an example of toy prototyping in that episode, and I created an action figure of the Penitent one from Blasphemous, a game that I was like halfway through at the time and really into, and it was a lot of fun and you lot seemed to really like it, so I figured I'd do something similar in today's episode. Now, if you followed what I do for any number of years, you'll know of my love for Empire films. Earlier this year, I created a whole custom mech suit inspired by robot jocks, so when Arrow emailed me and got in touch with me asking if I'd like to check out the new Empire box set, I thought it'd be a great excuse to create another character from this film studio's back catalogue. And even though there's lots of films that I really do love that came out of the Empire Studios back in the day, there's one that's been a genuine favourite of mine since before I can remember. A little known 1989 banger directed by the legendary Peter Manoogian called Arena. So this movie takes place in a futuristic sci-fi setting where the most popular show on TV is a very shadily run full contact fighting event called Arena. Basically it's bare knuckle MMA in space where aliens and cyborgs fight to become the arena champion. It's full of incredible creature designs and special effects like this screaming Mad George giant slug grasshopper monster. Check this absolute menace. Like I said, it's one of my all-time favourites, and I could spend hours talking about why I love this film, which is why I was so gassed when I saw that Arrow were releasing it again, because this is such a lost gem. I've only ever met a handful of people that have actually seen it, and up until recently, I'd never even watched it on anything other than the grainy old VHS that I'd been reloading since I was a kid. So being able to go back and watch it on a Blu-ray in nice HD quality was honestly one of my favourite things that I've done this year. And if you've been keeping up to date with everything that I've been doing this year, you'll know that it's been a lot, so I really don't say it lightly. I really do love the film Arena. So yeah, hopefully I can put a few more people onto this movie, and to celebrate the fact that it's been released again, I wanted to create my very own action figure of one of the characters from the film. And obviously there's a bunch of different monsters and aliens all in this movie that would make great toys. For my action figure, I decided to go with the main big bad guy from the movie, the mysterious arena champion, known only as Horn. Now I did actually start roughing out a sculpt to this guy about a year ago when I was just sat watching the VHS and I thought it'd be cool to try and sculpt him, but that's when I was just starting out and learning, and I knew I'd be able to do it way better now. Luckily though, this did give me a little bit of a head start and I was able to at least take some elements from that original version of him. If you're any kind of creative, then I'm sure you're like me and you've got unfinished projects that are either sat on shelves or on your computer that you never quite got around to completing. So for me personally, this was not only a great way of creating something cool for my collection and another piece for my homemade toy archive, but also a good opportunity to complete a little thing that I never quite finished, which is always nice. Now when I first started sculpting this guy, I was just going to have him as a little muscle-sized Keshi, but this time around I wanted him to be an actual action figure, so the first thing that I had to do was rejig his whole body to make it look like he was in some kind of fighting stance for that signature Playmates look. I then started roughing out his armour. One side of his body is completely cybernetic, so the biggest challenge for me with this sculpt was trying to create something that looks like he does in the movie, but also simplifying it a little bit so that it isn't too complex, and at the same time balances out with his organic off, so it doesn't just look like two random figures that are stuck together. Now when you're going for this stepping forward stance as well, you really have to think about how the figure's going to balance when it's standing up. So I had to give him some really chunky feet just to make sure that when he's printed he won't be toppling over. And there's no way of me actually testing this in this app. I just have to eyeball it and hope that when it's printed out it's the way I imagine it to be. I'm taking a lot of artistic liberties with this sculpt as well. Obviously I'm looking at reference images, but I'm not worrying too much about getting every little detail exactly the same. It's nice not to have to stick to things too strict. Sometimes it's fun just to be a bit more free and easy with it. The final thing to do after all that is to add all the fur and the boils and the cuts and the scars and the battle damage, make everything look a bit bashed up and like it's been in lots of fights and it's got lots of stories to tell. This thing, like most of what I create, is very much inspired by that late 80s, early 90s Playmates style, so it's got to have a lot of them little details to really give it that same vibe. So that was the sculpt all finished, and I had to say I really liked how it looked at this point. I felt like I'd really nailed the look of the character in the face, keeping it simple, but also adding enough detail to make it feel like something that would be released by Playmates back in the day, and I was very much looking forward to seeing how it was all going to print out and what it would look like in real life. So I did print out a few of these to try and get the sizing right. I want to create all the toys that I make in a similar scale so they all feel unified. I also feel at this stage is when you can check if there's any imperfections or anything like that, anything that you want to change or improve on. But once I've got one that I was happy with, I give it a final cleanup and then took it outside to get primed.
That's the prime time, bitch!
So I've been loving this Colour Forge spray paint at the minute. I've used it a couple of times now. I used the green to spray my tonk that I made for the BillMakingStuff battle report video, and it's what I'm using here because the type of paint that I've got for the cybernetic half of this figure is a metallic paint that needs to be put over a solid black base coat. So I recently took a trip to Outpost, which is a wargaming venue and supply shop at Kelham Island in Sheffield. It's a great place to grab supplies because they've got a really good selection of different paints and basing materials. This is the place where I buy my Colourforge spray, and it's also the shop where I picked up the metallic paint that I used on this toy's cybernetic parts. Now, because I wanted to get the most professional finish possible, I needed to paint the metallics with my airbrush, which meant I had to build one of my spray booths. Honestly, these things don't really work good at all, and I'm actually going to be building a proper spray booth soon in the studio, which I'll talk about in a future episode because it's a whole thing. But for now, I'm going to have to make do with a cardboard box. So this is the paint that I used, Aquamarine by Darkstar, part of their Molten Metals range. And in Outpost, they had it used on some minis, and it looked like it almost had some kind of like blue metallic Robocop armor looking finish, which would be perfect for the cybernetic half of this guy. Now, these kind of paints you have to build up in layers, and honestly, it's not a type of paint that I've had much experience using in the past, and whenever I have, it's always kind of gone wrong and never quite looked how I wanted it to. But I always like to test myself, and I always like to try and improve and become more familiar with techniques that I'm not very good at, so I stuck with it. And also shouts to my friend Jamie Daggers for giving me some great one-to-one advice on how to use paints like this, because honestly, if it wasn't for her pointers, I would have probably thrown in the towel right away because it looked like it wasn't working properly. So yeah, shouts to Jamie Daggers on this one. From there on, it was just about blocking out the rest of the colours, trying to build up layers and create that genuine late 80s, early 90s perfect plastic action figure look. It was also really weird painting this thing because at the same time of me doing this, I was also painting the studio, so I'd paint a bit of the walls in there and then come back and paint a little bit on this figure, and jumping from using a big paintbrush and a roller and painting big walls, and then switching to a tiny paintbrush and painting really fine details on this thing did kind of scramble my brain a little bit, and it was hard to jump between the two sides of the same brain like that. Also, because I'm working on so much at the minute, it's one of those times where I really don't have an hour free to spare in any direction, so I was kind of just in zombie mode while I worked on this. I'm also doing a Christmas video at the same time as doing this and the studio, so lots of really cool stuff to look forward to. Just, yeah, really burning the wick at both ends at the minute, so trying to paint this guy nice and neat was definitely a bit harder than usual. The paints that I'm using here as well are just normal hobby modelling acrylics, so you have to build them up in lots of thin layers to avoid getting any brush strokes and having a nice solid base colour. To my knowledge, that stuff is basically just all one coat, and it's all self-leveling, so you don't have to worry about any brush strokes or anything like that with that stuff. But these are just the acrylics that I've got, they're what I'm used to, and I also know that if I use them this way, I'll be confident in having a good idea of what it'll look like when it's finished. So for now, this is what I'm using. While I was painting this guy as well, I was also thinking, what kind of backstory does he have? We all know him from the movie as this violent, competitive fighting champion who loves hurting people and is a bit of a bully, but I wonder what made him like that. If you think about it, he's probably had a pretty brutal life and bad upbringing. He's also not even really the villain of the movie, his manager is, so he's probably being used and manipulated for most of his life and his fighting career. It's also safe to say that he will have had all these cybernetic implants to keep himself strong enough to stay in the arena, and he also probably knows that if he isn't this way, and he doesn't smash people's heads in whenever his manager asks him to, then he probably isn't good for anything else, and he'll end up getting fired and losing his arena contract. I'd love to see a prequel movie about how he become this way, or what he went on to do after the arena. It'd be wicked to see him turn up in a different Empire film, as like a bounty hunter or an anti-hero or something, a continuation of his story. What do you reckon? But if you do like films like this and you want to check out Arena, then as I said earlier, there is a way that you can see it for yourself. So currently Arrow UK do have this in stock. It does sell out pretty quick, and I'm not just saying that because I had to wait for like the third time for it to come in stock before I could get one. But if you do want to pick this up or anything else on the Arrow website, then feel free to use my affiliate link down in the description below. You can also use my discount code to get some money off, which is always nice. And if you do go through my link, it means that you get a little discount, I get a little kickback, and we can both enjoy some dope old school cult movies courtesy of Arrow. So there you have it, my Playmate style action figure of Horn, the champion of Arena. I had a lot of fun working on this figure and I'm really happy with the final results. His mechanical side took a bit longer to do than his organic side, but overall I think it really come together in the end. As I mentioned when I was sculpting it, I didn't try and make it an exact replica. I just wanted to create something that felt reminiscent of that character. And if they were making these in the 80s and the 90s, that's how they would have done it. They would have never been exactly the same. So I always like to stick to that logic. As I've mentioned many times as well, I wanted this to stand side by side with the Playmates action figures, and I really think it's done that. I feel like it's safe to say you could also put this next to the Kenner Terminator toys as well, and even though he's a little bit smaller, he could nicely coexist with those. So if I do say so myself, I think this guy definitely sits somewhere between a Playmates figure and a Kenner Terminator as well, which is never a bad thing. As you can also see, I made him a little cape. He didn't have any accessories or anything, so I wanted to give him something. So I just got some silver crushed velvet off Amazon and one of my old screen lens wipes and made him this cape. It's a little bit thick, but I wanted it to kind of replicate the scenes where he's walking around the club or entering the ring. And yeah, for what it is, I think it looks alright. In terms of his paint job, there was a few different ways that I could have gone with it, so I tried to replicate the kind of colours that they would have probably used back in the day if they were making this as an actual action figure. Maybe a little bit more vibrant than he actually looked in the film. But again, I think it works, and yeah, overall very happy with this figure, and with me being such a big fan of the film, it's just nice to have something that's my own little tribute to it in my own little way. So I'd love to know what you think of this figure. Do you think it holds up well? Do you think it stands up nice next to the Playmates figures, or the Kenner Terminators, or the Robocop figures? Let me know. And if you enjoy seeing me make toys like this, then let me know if there's any other characters from any cult movies or TV shows or games that you'd love to see replicated in this style. Who knows? I might even make it one day. So yeah, there he is, my little home from Arena. Super happy with this guy, and if you enjoyed watching me build him today, then don't forget to give this video a like, and if you don't already, subscribe to the channel. When I look at my YouTube analytics, I see so many people watch these videos that don't subscribe to the channel, so if you do enjoy this content and you want to see more, it really does make the difference when you hit that subscribe button. I'd love to know what you think of this little guy, what you think of the studio update so far, and if you're excited for the next videos that I'm going to be dropping. Like I said, tomorrow morning we've got something really cool happening in that studio, and I can't wait to show you. So if you're excited for that, then let me know down in the comments below, and as I said, if there's any other characters that you'd love to see me create in this style for a video, then let me know. Maybe we'll make them. As you also saw in this episode as well, I was signing a bunch of Turgore Prints. They're limited to 50, and there's only a handful of them left now. There's only a few left. So if you do want one, I'll sign it personally. It's only 20 quid plus postage. You also get a cool little trading card in there. Where's the trading cards? There it is. Little limited edition trading card by my friend Raygun Cards. So that goes in there as well. As I said, 20 quid plus postage. I'll send them anywhere in the world. And if you buy one of them, it all goes to help support Slimehouse. And there's only a handful left. So yeah, not many to move now. If you do want one, now is your last chance. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody that supports on Patreon, and if you want to become part of the Slime Alliance or the Slime Renegades, the link to do so is down in the description below. You also get exclusive access to my Discord Slime Alliance only thread. I have an open Discord, but then I have a Slime Alliance only one where I post constant updates of projects like this. All them people on there have already seen what I'm building for the next video, for the Christmas one, which is going to be something really special, and I'm really excited about that. So yeah, the only way to get access to that and see all those things is by joining the Slime Alliance over on Patreon. As I've made very clear in this video, many times I've said it, you're probably sick of hearing me say it by now, but I'm working on so much at the minute. I've got this Christmas video to finish that I'm going to start working on. As soon as I finish recording this one, then we've got loads of stuff happening in the studio tomorrow morning. It's all happening, so I'm going to wrap it up there. But as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody that's joined me for this video. There's so many things that you can be watching on YouTube, so the fact that you tune in to me every week and sit with me for half an hour and listen to me talk about toys and studio builds and stuff, it really does mean a lot, so thank you. So, until the next video, I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, and I will catch you in that next episode, but until then, I'm gone. Pow!